Hello, everyone. Sorry, I was doing a little bit of backdoor notes and everything, and trying to set everything up. So I know we've mentioned a school campaign that will be coming soon. That will be in a couple of months. We've got some things going on around here. As for this campaign, I believe there was some talk off screen about wanting to use certain abilities to look over a few things. And there's a few other developments I was going to do with Mikael in the morning with you guys that was going to be fun. So we'll start off with what you guys wanted to do during your technically long rest.
Alright. Shoot. So Victor is going to kind of just take it all in a little bit and try to come up with anything to ask Mikael because he's heard of him before. Working in the archive with who his mentor is. Archimedes has mentioned him more than once in passing, and he has even read a couple of his translated works. And it turns out Mikael knows some of his family history.
Yep.
And he's always kind of curious about that.
So, are there any specific questions you have in mind?
How he knew my grandfather and if he knew like any generation just before that, like my great grandfather or something like that. So he'll walk over to Mikael. Like, it has been nice to meet you, but I did have a couple of questions. You said that you've known my grandfather. Did you know his father, or when did you meet him?
As you're asking him this, he seems to be using a very white like ash to sit here and draw a pattern on the floor. Almost like some of those neat little sand patterns that people make. And he's trying to sit here and draw out what looks like a circle with runes around it. And he's like, your grandfather, how to say this? Interesting fellow. He really had a bit of a problem with trying to get into everyone's business. But he was always trying to find answers for what happened to his brother. As for a few of the other issues, the rest of your family, I didn't really meet. I met him and his brother. The rest of your family kind of kept quiet. So whatever duties your family has held, they've kind of held quietly for a very long time till those two. From what it seemed, a lot of the duties were trying to keep the Wood Elf Nation separate from the Feywild. They wanted something to where they wouldn't have to worry about royalty. They seemed very influenced by some other humanoid politics out there, and well, what were they calling it? Democracies. Yes, those were becoming a rise in the human world, and they were interested in that stuff. And they wanted to sit here and shift the Wood Elf kingdoms from more of listening to royalty and royalty from another plane to democracies, from what it was seeming.
Oh, that's kind of ironic because I could end up with a seat in Florence's court.
Aye, but just because you have a seat in a court doesn't mean you can't also be from somewhere else, especially when it comes to Fae. Fae are... It's strange, you become Fae, but you don't become Fae. It's... Technically, you can become full Fae, which for your kind gets harder. Alfar have to go under a much stricter transformation, and it kind of rewrites who you are in your blood if you become a full Fae. But otherwise,
Nearby?
yeah, you could be nearby.
Okay.
But
I just wanted to make sure.
yeah, but otherwise, the not to really call you guys lesser Fae or lesser Alpha, like what they like to insist amongst the older cultures and the stronger races, but you're considered lesser by them because you're closer to the mortal realm. You guys also exist with mortal time rules, unlike, well, Fey Lords and that, where it's moments in life. So your lives are measured by the same grains that mortality is, instead of kind of like a Fey Lord, which... Easiest way to explain it would be like a book. You could write a page about how they're dancing and enjoying a banquet, but that banquet could last for a mortal 3 months. But that's a moment in time for a Fae. That's one page used. So, part of what ends up having to happen is they end up having to rewrite you, in a sense, if you become a full Fae. Now, if you're just getting a seat in the court, you're technically considered a foreign dignitary, usually, by most courts. I don't know how Julian is going to deal with this. Well, was it Julian? Or is it... No, Florence.
Francis.
Florence.
Yeah, Florence.
Yeah. I don't know how Florence will deal with foreign dignitaries and all that. Because technically, even the Belmonts are foreign dignitaries. But I'm going to guess it's going to be better than how Julian was dealing with them, because as a foreign dignitary from the Fomorian kingdoms and everything, I was kind of, locked away down here and treated poorly.
And you wouldn't at this point, I'm sure.
Yes.
I had plans on becoming a champion of my court, so I have a feeling that I might go through the process you're referencing to some extent.
To some extent, but being you are not of Alpha blood, it will only somewhat manipulate your blood.
It's fine.
You will only ever, as a Alpha, be kind of considered kind of like a half-Fae?
Which is totally fine on my part as well. I not going for the title. I'm going for the capacity to do things here.
Now, I will warn you. Most mortals that do that, if they have the pre-notion to get rid of that half of them, risk a few, not just health issues, but
sanity.
A few issues where you might become, well, you might die. If you try to revoke the half-Fae blood. You'd still be able to get rid of the championship, but you will forever be changed. It's like demonic corruption in that, or even angelic blessings. They're very much the same. When you try to purge them, if it's done anything to keep you alive, that gets undone.
I have a feeling that I'm already somewhat touched by the Fae, and I shouldn't really worry about it.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't
even
think
if you
it'll be an issue. Sorry.
even if you do go ahead and do the champion's transformation, it won't really affect your capriciousness.
Yeah, probably not.
And Victor's just thinking about everything he's heard, and he's like, honestly, I don't know who else in my family I would trust to be a champion. It seems it's gonna have to be me. As he says this, he's eyeing the circle on the ground that Mikhail was making.
Yeah, he still seems to be kind of working on it with a bucket of ash that he has, and he's like, so the thing with you is being alpha by blood, you won't have to worry about much by taking a seat. Technically, the Belmont, I believe, is not going to have to worry about that as well by just taking a seat. The championship technically will change people. It depends on the court on how it changes. The courts of death tend to have championships that. What did some of the mortals call them? Dullahans. Yes. The headless riders, the horsemen and all that. Those are some champions of some courts, usually given jobs to go collect on certain contracts.
Still, it's just sitting there listening to this, and she just, you can tell she's getting, the anxiety is coming on. It's like, I don't.
So, during this, how far away is Stella?
Well, that's up to you guys. You guys are in a big camp. I'm not gonna horseshoe people in.
Hey, Stella is, she's fairly, she's close enough to hear what's going on. But she's not like intruding or anything.
Okay. So Victor's gonna ask about the circle and runes. What are you making here?
I'm setting up the basics for a teleportation circle, and once I know where we want to go, whether it's the Raven Queen's court or upstairs or anywhere else, if I know a formula nearby, I can sit here and finish it up, and we can teleport out of here at the end of the morning.
Oh, that can be very useful to learn.
Aye, it's very useful. The basics are... Well, it depends on the plane. Each plane has their own sort of formula to it. And then when you start going along where in the plane you start changing other things, technically there are ways with more advanced circles to not just include a where and what plane, but a when. Those were generally only used by a certain group of individuals that I have met. Something about going to a plane that's technically not connected time-wise to the other planes. The few times I went there, one of their mages took me, and it's... The libraries there and the gardens and everything are very beautiful.
That sounds like it might have been a group pre-sanctum.
Yes, it might have been. The Knights of Order tried to keep it mostly a secret. The war that kind of wiped them out was bad. To put it simply, heaven and hell didn't quite like them constantly getting in their way and found a way to invade the plane. As such, well, there's not a lot of members left. Most of them are going to be the older members that were too powerful for normal demons to kill. Or normal angels to kill.
Alright, that makes sense. So how hard would this be to learn?
It's not exceptionally hard. What you really need is the formula from other circles. By having the circles formulas, you can actually teleport, or if you have an item and know how to teleport, you could teleport with an item that's got a designated thing in it. From what I know, that order used keys and door handles. And inside the key, or on the key, usually was imprinted the runes that were needed for both to and fro.
Kind of how the Sanctum of Stability has them. He's going to give Stella like a rub on the shoulder and pat on the back, gently. You can see her anxiety rising. Probably separating a little bit from the group since she was sounding a little bit further away.
If that's the case, then I'll be honest. You guys are probably working with the remnants of what the Order had left.
That's what it seems like, and that's what I've gotten over working with them for a while here. Are you familiar with Balthazar? I think you referenced him earlier.
Yes, if I remember when I last met him, it was about the time that all this was happening. He was still a child.
He's not a child anymore. He's a fully fledged adult that can throw my father around like he's nothing.
Oh, I'd expect nothing less from a Horizon, but he needs to be careful not to be outed to the wrong groups about that. Both heaven and hell will usually, to put it simply, at one point there were enough Horizon to make a kingdom of their own, and heaven and hell murdered every one of them.
They seem, I'm not gonna lie, the more I'm hearing heaven and hell, the less I'm liking them.
The Horizon being half demon, half angel were, and with no actual allegiance to either side, were considered competition by both sides, and a problem.
Good understand.
Kind of like how they do with warlocks and saying that they're easily corruptible and easily swayed, or how they did with the Order, with how they were trying to stop them from destroying the opposition, because from what little I could pick up from a lot of their explanations, it's the factor that everything is like a scale, and once one side is gone, it starts tipping everything into the void. Because there's no counterbalance. That nature itself requires a counterbalance to be there of some kind. And that by total destruction of more and more sides would cause the eventual destruction of all life and existence. And then whoever is technically the seat of the Allmaker would have to sit here and create more again. What little I remember when I was out in your guys' world, there was some theories going around that people said were insane. Stuff about perhaps the universe was at one point all one big dust ball and exploded. It sounds like that's very much what it is the void is energy, then gets turned into mass by the individual, and then kind of created.
Instead of responding, Aznath takes a swig out of his flask.
It's even hard for me to understand in full detail. The ones that usually understood it better were the higher-ups in the Order or the now deceased people of the Northrend, which are very close in blood to Fomorians, but also not, and also close to Jotun. They were technically half-gods, and they kept amongst their own people, and it was weird.
Interesting.
But as
I know.
Mhm.
As to answer your question about the teleportation circle, very likely we'll have to go to the court above at the moment. But that's because I know that we're going to want to talk to Florence.
he
But
does begin putting in the ruins for that.
beyond that, I do see us going to the mortal plane relatively quickly afterwards. If dropping and visiting a couple of places on the way. Well, mortal plane would still be next. Do we have one of the keys for the doors? So we could input that, because that would actually allow him to just pop into existence through that door, and we could just go through that way real easy.
What do you mean?
Sorry, my alarm started going off right then. Do we have the key that we use to get here to the maroon ship that has the Ent in it? Or is the Ent itself?
You mean so that Draven could technically use it?
Or yeah, either way. The point being, the runes are on the key, so therefore they could be put into a circle, right?
Yep, you just have to know the orientation.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of easy when it's a key, because I mean, up and down is very.
Yeah.
Right.
Keys are at least
So-
the easiest way to do it. Rods become harder because then you're like, which direction is meant to be up?
Mm-hmm. So Victor's gonna sit there kind of and pull the key out and just kind of look at it.
So that's where we should go next, is to that door.
I'm going
But
to...
I'm not expecting you to haul us around. It's just, I know that that's where we need to go next, most likely. Because we have to take care of the Earth Cult. And depending on Fomorians, if they want to come with us, then they certainly may. And, you know, if they want to get let out of here, possible go to that cave, that's on them. If not, then that's understandable, and we'll look for another location. They don't deserve to be stuck here. Unless they want to be here. Just don't deserve to be stuck here.
Yeah. Well, as for the Fomorians, you're gonna have a few problems. There are, even in the camp, a couple of factions. One might be harder to convince to join. One will probably take a trade. The other one, just getting out of here is probably enough for them. So, giving them the mines that you were planning on will probably help them sway those two. The one goes off of older tradition, though.
I want to at least set them free due to the change in, leadership.
The one faction that goes off of older tradition will accept freedom, but would want to stay here unless you can convince them otherwise. The other way you could do it, you can invoke the right to force them to take a deal. The problem? You will have to defeat their leader, whoever challenges them.
Why do we have to force them to take a deal in this situation? What's the reason they would not want to leave?
They would want to stay in the Feywild, so they might try to cause issues here. It's a matter of if you want the full force of this camp, or if you want a portion of it.
I think they should be allowed to go wherever they would like to. However I can remain allied to them without any problems is best. So the cave is good enough for 2/3 of them. The last third, if they want to be above and out of this prison, then they should have right to the area of the somewhere in the area of my court. But that is up to someone who knows that a little bit better, unfortunately. I can't grant that, me not even knowing what land we have right now. I am just freshly here. I don't know where the borders of the Court of the Moon lie.
Well, in that case, you might be able to convince them to work with you guys longer enough to help you out then, because of offering such a thing.
I cannot in my correct conscience keep people here as prisoners when it is someone else who's even imprisoned them. It's not right, so...
Aye, but you could probably sit here and, by offering them land, also ask them for aid.
Exactly.
Depends on how persuasive you are to the
This
leader.
also to say that they feel like helping me at all because the previous leadership here imprisoned them, and that would be their right to want to leave.
Aye.
I know I would be a little bit feisty in that situation, so...
Aye, and I still have to talk to the 3 leaders to get them on board. So if you guys wish to come with in the morning, we could converse with them all, and... Well, I can assure you it's...
fantastic use of time. It sounds like a fantastic use of time, because I believe that the Fomorians are going to be the only allies we have at the current moment, and the other thing is, I need to possibly let some of the red caps back out of the prison area because the blink ferrets don't have anything to eat. Weird that people of the Feywild are offsetting the balance like humans might do.
Julian was very short-sighted and wanted everything looking nice and neat to his image.
How much I'm not a fan of the red caps, I'd rather there be a different food source. The ferrets like them.
In some intrinsic way, we're all the same.
The only problem I know is there is a fungus infecting some of the...
Saw that.
Yes. That will be something we'll have to attend to. And by we, I mean the court. I anticipate
Oh, no,
you
I
guys
don't
will
expect
be...
you to do.
You guys will be
I'm going to
way
set
too
you
busy.
free, and you can do whatever you'd like to. I just know that you were an ally in my consideration, and we needed you and the other one.
Actually, I have seats in multiple courts. It's why I come back to the Feywild often. That plus I was bored
Regardless,
here.
ally of mine.
Technically, I have a seat amongst you guys, so... It's just a matter of how we're going to deal with the fungal issue before releasing them and making sure that they're not infected, because I don't even know what's going to happen to the Fey Ferrets if that happens.
They may be immune to it.
Just feed them all to Graja.
If they are not immune to it and it does something to them, wouldn't Graja be the worst idea to feed one to first?
Yeah.
I
True.
think so.
Have to AFK to check the pizza.
So... I'll try to see with some normal Fey Ferrets what we can do about either using them to clean up the fungal issue or whatnot. Being a scholar and everything on how I do things, I'm probably the most qualified to do that part. You guys have to finish off this business with the Earth Cult. Okay. I think we all have a plan of attack. Is there anything else you guys might wish to ask?
At this time,
Victor's just gonna be looking over the transportation circle and trying to learn the patterns.
Yeah, with learning the patterns, you kind of also identify generic markers, so to speak, on certain things. Things that seem sort of similar with markings, but whatnot between looking at that and the key. I did put in your other notes on your character sheet that you do have 2 circles written down. So you have the portal to the door handle that's on the William O.T., the corpse of the William O.T. And you technically will have the portal to the Lunar Moth Court.
Nice.
Now you're going to be going all over the world trying to find teleportation circles going, I gotta collect them all!
There's at least one in mind that he wants to get.
What, Raven Queen?
Actually, he was thinking the Belmonts.
Oh yeah, the Belmont would have worked.
I might know that one.
well, this,
And as for Axe saying that he might know that one already, he wouldn't have known what a teleportation circle is yet, so no, you wouldn't know that one, Axe.
One last question. What is this chalk stuff that you're using?
Oh, this is just ash. You could use ash, chalk, paint, Technically, you could lay it into tiles on the floor. You could make it into stained glass. I've seen. People have carved it on doors.
Okay. Because I have an idea for a building.
The
Also,
only
Larkin, I
thing.
didn't mean me actually knowing it off the top of my head. I mean in the book.
Maybe. We'll get to that when you do look at the book. But, what was asked? So,
I was just
Apologies.
saying, like, Victor was saying that he has an idea for a building with a few different circles to places in it.
yes. Michael goes, well, the only thing I can suggest there, if you put it on a wall or a door, keep the orientation. So if it's upright on a wall, do not put it on a floor. Because then you'll come out laying down, and if it's got a prolonged delay on being open, you'll fall back through and fall on your butt on the other side, where the wall is.
Oh.
It also means, technically, you could make it to where it drops into a room.
Mm-hmm. And you're landing prone.
Mm-hmm. So there are neat tricks you can do with it.
Well, I definitely need some rest after this crazy adventure.
From the sounds of it, you guys aren't even done.
Not for a while yet.
So, Stella, are you going to ask something?
Yeah, just all this talk of becoming like Fae and like being changed by that. It's scary. Makes me nervous.
What's got you nervous?
Killing of Fae is, I think, a misunderstanding. It's changing into one by being rewritten. Not necessarily when we kill one. I don't think we'll have an issue killing one. Specifically in regards to like Julian. That and we didn't kill him yet. We just
Just
took him around.
And it becoming Fae changes you. It's just too much. Change you too much.
Most things, it depends on the intent of the one imposing the change. I can tell you, Florence will probably still want you to have your free will and your own motives. It's other Fae giving you such a deal that would be problematic. If you even look at... Well, look at undead. If a vampire bites you, the intent is to feed, to maybe make another vampire, etc., etc. Therefore, the intent in becoming a vampire at that point is to feed, to continue the curse or whatever it is further. When it comes to lichdom, it's just immortality that they're seeking, and the reason why most of them sit here and become mindless is because they never intend to keep themselves as themselves, just their physical form. Angels are always trying to make a purer form of the individual, just like demons are trying to make a more corrupt version of the individual. They prey on the good or evil inside the hearts of the individual. Fae do the same. Florence will probably want you to have your own individual you, but like a trickster Fae? Oh yes, they're going to go after your childish trickster ways. They're going to try to accentuate those, make them override more of who you are. Another example, which a lot of people don't realize, the elemental planes. We'll go with, say, fire. Fire is actually an element of passion. A lot of people see it as destruction, but it's passion, it can be compassion, it can be love, anger, hatred, rage, and as such, it's easy to be consumed by that passion, and it consumes your passions, making them burn brighter. So, as long as you know yourself, and can control yourself during the transformation or have a decent deal, it doesn't hurt you mentally and who you are. It just changes blood-wise who you are. And then you get some of the strengths and drawbacks.
I see.
Why I don't fear losing myself. Made into a champion and change some. I don't see any reason that Florence would have any reason to be mad at us for what we've done.
Right. And it seems there was some type of friendship or an alliance or a deal with him and my family. So I don't feel like he would do that. At least not right off.
What little I remember of Florence when he was younger, he didn't approve of some of his father's policies and how he treated some people. He also did not like his brother. His brother was always about him and how he can benefit and how everything should appease him. He was less about the people. When it came to it, it meant that they could garner more favor from certain courts than others because they were very much these people are better, these are worse. They understood the quote-unquote hierarchy of some of the courts and how they treat people. Florence will probably be much more liked by different other courts of the common people. And being the Raven Queen is the only one that tends to garner any favor from them, it would be good to have a court representing the common people.
I think I'm gonna try to get some rest.
You guys rest, and in the morning we will deal with The three Fomorian lords. That would be a nice conversation we'll all have.
We'll appreciate it if you come with, but
I'll come with.
well, you're under no obligation to do so. You're your own person. I respect that.
I'll come with, but this is your guys' task and your guys' not even deals to make, but conversations to have. Since some of it involves a war topside.
As not to look around to make sure no one's really close, for that matter, aside from the general party. Due to the onslaught outside of here, Julian removing a lot of dissenters, we're relatively weak, so having 2/3 of the Fomorians have a place to go on the material plane that's real nearby, and another third of them wanting to be in the general area of our court might actually help bolster our forces. Unfortunately, the Moon Court is probably the weakest it's going to be right now. We're under an ability of being attacked, and I don't want anyone to figure that out.
And some enemies probably already know. So
Yes.
it's a matter of bolstering as quickly as we can. The fact that you guys did a surprise attack was probably your saving grace on that part. Otherwise, they would be mobilizing a lot sooner. Well, we will rest.
We just felt the need to move fast.
Which is smart in such a case. You stopped a potential secondary war from coming through to try to seize the power. But we'll rest, and then in the morning we'll deal with starting the... What were those neat little things with numbers on them? Stones that mortals played with?
Roll the dice.
No, they were flat. Dominoes. See how the dominoes fall.
And
with that, everyone goes to sleep. And I will now say it is time for our first break. Or our break. I don't know how many breaks we'll have. Depends on how far we go.
One thing above table, now that I'm able to see ultraviolet, I will be looking through the spell book while we're in our rest period.
Okay.
That's the only other thing I want to do tonight. That's it.
Okay, we'll start back with that after the break.
Understood.
Okay,
I just know it needs a time to read, so.
Yep. And here we go, on to break.